If you're comfortable from inside, you remain comfortable on the outside, and you don't need. I've never had a need or the desire to show or to prove to people something. I did have a great pride in football, and I always wanted to win. It was really nice from 76 to 91, 15 years. I played with it. I tweaked it, and I made enough money that our life, with 6 children by that time, 7 children by that time, our income was supplemented to, I had almost doubled my teaching. And we had nice, it made real nice Christmases and made real nice Easter vacations, and it took a little financial pressure off. And that was phase 1, 15 years. And then my son Raymond played, of all places, got a scholarship to Alabama. And he come home and got married. And the apple don't fall far. And he said, Dad, I said, Raymond, what are you doing? You getting married? You haven't got a job? You got a year of college? He said, I want to work with you. I want to take Dynamite, and that was our name, Dine-A-Mate. I want to take Dynamite all across the United States, and I want you to get out of education. I said, Ray, now I'm making $60 a year. I've got retirement ahead of me. I've got a great insurance policy. I said, Ray, I think you're right, it can go. But I can't cut loose yet. I'm 7 years to retirement. He said, Dad, you're bringing in $400,000 a year. $450 a year right now in 3 cities. I was doing Syracuse, Scranton, and Binghamton. He said, let me work it full-time for a year. If I can double that by myself with you helping me, will you leave teaching? I said, Ray, if you can double that to $1 million, I'll leave teaching. The son of a gun. This kid turned out to have found his niche. The little extra can make you successful in a lot of different ways, a lot of different areas, and it just means trying a little bit harder.
This week on American Real, we close out 2017 in style and open 2018 with a bang. There'll be no more excuses or resistance in 2018 if you just keep this simple phrase from our upcoming guests in mind: whatever it takes. In this heart-to-heart conversation with upstate New York icon Ray Stanton, the former educator, semi-pro football star, and entrepreneur, tells his story of how he took a simple coupon book concept and turned it into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, employing hundreds and helping schools, nonprofit groups, and organizations raise countless dollars while stimulating the economy at thousands of merchant locations nationwide. For nearly 30 years, Ray Stanton has been a mentor to me. I have looked up to Ray and have learned a great deal from him. As on the football field, Ray is quick to formulate ideas while having a plan of action in how to march his team into the end zone. His hard-nosed style is motivating, his personality is infectious, and his no-quit attitude is the reason he shines above the rest. Although he's never picked up a smartphone or computer, it hasn't stopped him from reaching his goals no matter how high they're set. Out of all his talents, Ray has mastered how to connect with people no matter how they're wired. He treats everyone he encounters with respect and dignity because, as he says, he is comfortable within, which allows him to be himself wherever he goes. As you'll see, nothing is more important to Ray than his wife Nikki and their large family. With 7 children, 40 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild, you can say Ray Stanton has his hands full, but he'll be the first to tell you it's more like having an entire football team behind him, and that's just the way he likes it. Now, if you like this episode, please share it with your friends, connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and don't forget to subscribe to the American Real YouTube channel to receive all the latest updates. I'd like to thank our partners and sponsors, including Happy Socks, turning an everyday essential into a colorful design item, and Alitura Naturals, the best all-natural skincare products available. Visit aliteraNaturals.com to make a purchase, and be sure to use the coupon code AMERICAN at checkout for a very special 20% discount. And now, without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Ray Stanton.
Welcome to American Real. This is Roger Brooks, and today my very special guest is Raymond H. Stanton II. Your story is a true realization of the American dream, growing up in the rock and roll era, marrying your high school sweetheart, having 7 children, 40 grandchildren, and you were an educator and an administrator in the public school system. You played football since high school at the position of quarterback. You were also a player, owner, and coach of a semi-pro football team before being inducted into the Semi-Pro Football Hall of Fame. You are an entrepreneur and never considered retirement and have an amazing zest for life. Ray Stanton, welcome to American Real.
Thank you, Roger, and I'm exhausted from that. I'm already tired.
So look, I've known you for, I was thinking about it, over 30 years since I was in high school. Didn't know you well back then, but everyone knew Mr. Stanton. You were a great leader, even back in the high school days. And it's been such a pleasure to have spent so much time with you over these past 30 years. I worked for several of your companies, really got to know you and your family, and a lot of my own personal success I owe it to you because I spent a lot of time with you, and I think it's important for me to bring people like you onto American Real because you've been such an inspiration, not only to me, but to so many people in our community and beyond.
I feel very fortunate to be able to share experiences with young kids like yourself, like my own children, like the thousands of students I had, the thousands of teammates I had. And I firmly believe that you are who you associate with. And if you associate with the right people and help each other, it all goes back to team, there's a good outcome. And in most cases, I've been very fortunate with the outcomes in my life that I've had, from growing up to being fortunate enough to meet the right lady, Nikki, and having a large family, and then having a large set of grandchildren. So I think it all relates to how you feel about life and your optimism and your associations. I used to tell parents when I had parental conferences with kids that had problems at school that who are your kids hanging out with? The first start is to make sure that people associate themselves with the right people, so they get led down the positive course instead of the negative course, and it goes. It all for me goes back to sports, and if you build a good team around yourself, you're going to be really good.
Yeah.
And if you don't build a good team around yourself, the outcome's not going to be very good. So I've learned about teamwork my whole life.
Yeah, and I think we tell our youngsters how important it is to hang around with good, like-minded people. And I don't know if when we're young if we really think too much about that. I know as I get older, today, I've been hearing over the last couple of years, elevate your peer group. Just like you said, hang around people that you care about, good people that can elevate you and not just, end up going to the pub or the bar and, doing that kind of stuff all the time. So it is really important and, something that the young people, we really need to take a hand to help guide them.
I truly believe that the most important thing a parent can do is to make sure you can't choose your kids' friends, but you can choose the types of friends they have. And the most important thing a parent can do is make sure your kids are associating with kids who think positive and do the right things as much as possible.
Right. If you can, let's go back to the 50s.
Back in the 50s, once again, I feel privileged to have been born in 44. Didn't think much or know much or remember much about the 40s until the late 40s. I remember we built a new elementary school in 1949, which Calvin Coolidge over on the east side of Binghamton, and it's still there. And I can remember to this day our teacher saying, "Bring your wagons tomorrow because we're moving from the old school to the new school." So from kindergarten on, I had a wonderful experience in the 50s, and as every generation knows that today is not the same as the generation they grew up in, and it's a stark difference, the 50s and today. I feel us kids of the 50s, without even knowing it, the innocence and naivety of the 50s was so wonderful that we didn't appreciate it because we just simply didn't know, without looking back 40, 50 years later, what the 50s encapsulated. It was a time after the Korean War, where Eisenhower was elected president, and we had, until Vietnam in the 60s, we had better than a decade of wonderful, tremendous growth. The World War II veterans, the Korean veterans had come home, and everything popped in the 50s, whether it was locally, whether it was IBM, EJ, across the country, GE. The 50s was an explosion of work, an explosion of wealth. Not that we went from making, my dad went from making $5,500 to $6,500 relative to today, but it was a time where most everyone was happy. The nation didn't have a lot of problems. For the young teenagers, I became a teenager in the mid-50s, 56, 57. It was the era of rock and roll, the Elvis Presley, then a few years later, the Beatles, Barbra Streisand. We just had a wonderful time and a wonderful, safe time. The danger back then, of course, was sneaking a cigarette or sneaking a beer. And that, of course, was frowned upon. And I think today, what the parents face today as opposed to the 50s with the opioid problem we're having and the heavy killer drug problem that we're having and the abuse problems, the aggression problems. I'm not saying they were non-existent, but they were not nearly as multiple as they are today. And we could literally, when I was growing up, everybody had screen doors. I grew up prior to the air conditioning.
Right.
So we would leave the doors and windows all screened and open at night. If you wanted to walk in our house at midnight or 2 in the morning, you walked in our house and everybody felt safe because people didn't do those types of transgressions as they do today. I'm not saying there weren't any of them, but it was a very safe and wonderful time to grow up.
Yeah, and I know you started out pretty young on your entrepreneurial path. You were a paper boy, correct?
I started at 12. My sister had been the first girl paper boy or paper girl locally, and when she reached 16 or so, she no longer wanted to do that, and she gave her brother Raymond the paper out at age 12, which was good because it allowed me to have, I would say, $5 to $6 a week in my pocket. And back then, that would buy a lot. You got to remember that when McDonald's started in the 50s, you could get a hamburger, fry, and a Coke for 35 cents. Because the hamburgers were 15, the fries and the Cokes were 10 and 10. So $5, $6 a week as a paper boy and mowing lawns and so forth, got it up to about $10 a week. I was able to, by the time I was 16, buy my own car. I had horses that I bought and rode. And so that type of early employment, which, again, I think is missing today, it was almost an expectation back in the 50s that as soon as you were 12, you'd get working papers and you'd do something. Mm-hmm. And it was an expectation because parents didn't hand out allowances. We didn't know what allowance was, and my father always said that, Raymond, you can have anything you want, but you better pay for it, because I'm sure as hell not going to pay for it. So if you wanted something, you knew that you had to get it yourself, and most everybody did something on the side. I was kind of a workaholic because I enjoyed doing things and meeting people. And, you know, I had 6 or 7 lawns that I mowed every week, and I had 6 or 7 houses that I shoveled during the winter, and I put garbage out for people. And I wasn't overworked, but it always gave me. I always had change in my pocket, and that made me feel confident. It made me feel a little bit successful, and it also allowed me at times in the wintertime to help family with food.
Sure. And you were doing it yourself, which is rewarding.
Yeah.
So when did the football start? When did your interest start with football?
Well, back in the 50s, like today, I guess, if you wanted to be macho, you played football. And I was never one for hitting, so I went out for the only position where when somebody chases you, you can throw the ball away, and that's quarterback. And my experience was in 9th grade that I barely made the team. I was always skinny, if you can believe that. And my sophomore year, I decided not to go out. So I was done with football as a sophomore, and lo and behold, September of my sophomore year in high school, the JV coach came to me and said that our JV quarterback had been injured, and I watched you last fall when you were throwing the ball, playing catch as a freshman, and although they didn't play you, I recognized that you had a real good arm. Would you please come out for the JV? That was Coach Charlie Holland, who enticed me with a brand new pair of spikes if I would come out, and that got me. The spikes alone
Spikes got you.
Sold me.
Right.
Nobody else had a brand new pair. The spikes that they passed out in those days, the equipment that they passed out in those days were almost throwaways, but I had a new pair of spikes because they needed a quarterback, and thanks to Mr. Holland, I found out that I did have a gift. I didn't have a gift of speed. I didn't have a gift of agility, nor strength, but I had a gift that I could throw the ball. For some reason, I could throw the ball very well. And I worked on that, and I worked on the other things, and it got me in a good position for football.
Wow. So how far could you throw a football back in high school? How many yards?
I don't know about high school, but the furthest I've ever thrown one was 85 yards.
Wow.
In semi-pro football, and Back in high school, I could probably throw 65, 70 yards. And
That's quite an arm.
yeah, I had the distance. I just had to work on the accuracy, which when you're in the sport as long as I was, it eventually comes.
Sure. So you end up, I believe you went to prep school for a year or two.
I didn't get a scholarship out of high school, and I didn't have any money. I did get an offer of Dartmouth, but because of my father's small income, I still would have had to pay a third of Dartmouth, which back in those days would have been about $3,500. And back in those days, $3,500 would be like asking a kid today to pay $40. So I couldn't go. I wanted to go to Dartmouth because they had a great passing program, but it was ruled out financially. So I went to prep school. My high school gym teacher, Mr. O'Reilly, got me a scholarship in prep school because that was also back then about $10,000 a year.
Wow.
And you lived right on campus. It was a military prep school. It was a duplicate of VMI, Virginia Military Institute. It had the same physical plans and looks and uniforms, military uniforms. So I went to military prep school on a scholarship. I didn't know the scholarship meant that you had to live in the working dorm and you had to serve 3 meals a day to the cadets. So I was kitchen staff to pay my way through, and that was okay. Not a problem because the kitchen staff ate better than anybody.
Sure.
Once the cadets were out of there, we got all the leftovers. And had a great year in prep school, made all-state military prep school in Virginia, and got a full ride to Auburn University. I went down to Auburn, and it was such a culture shock that this is the pre-integration South. And the football was great. I rotated on the freshman team with another good quarterback. The varsity at that time had a quarterback that was All-American sophomore. So silly me, I put 2 and 2 together. It says even though I'm playing and starting, rotating on the freshman, it doesn't look good on the varsity because this guy's got 2 more solid years left. And so I made a decision to come home. I was also had found, my senior year in high school, had found the love of my life, Nikki, and was anxious to get back home to her. The coaching staff had promised me with the scholarship to Auburn that they would bring her down the next year. Out-of-state acceptance was very difficult in those days. And the second year down there, they informed me that they weren't able to get her in until the following year. And between an All-American varsity quarterback and not being able to have my lady down there, I decided to come home and go to Cortland State. Had a nice experience at Cortland State. Nikki and I got married, and we had children in college. We had two children in college. So I got a job in Cortland and dropped the football because it wasn't necessary. I was very happily married, and her and I were both getting our teaching degree, which we got and came back to our hometown. I came back to my old high school, sat down with my old high school teachers and said, I'm on the staff. They go, what? Ramey Stanton? You're going to be on our staff? And they were happy. So, and that worked out good because I had 27 years in education.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the segregation back then. So you're from the north.
It was it was almost unbelievable. When I got down to Auburn, I noticed that there were no students, obviously. There were a lot of cleaning personnel. And I noticed that when we went downtown, and Auburn was like Ithaca, a small downtown, but real alive because the university was right there. I noticed my first couple weeks down there that when I walked downtown, if there were people of color coming the other way, that they would hurriedly get off the sidewalk and get out of my way. And that was an expectation. The expectation is that I guess the white people have the right of way, whether it's the sidewalks, the buses, or whatever, and that had not been the case of what I'd seen growing up in Binghamton. Number one, our population, our minority population was very small, and the minorities at that time, of course, went to school with us, played football with us. It was so distant that the players down there questioned me, did you ever play with the black people? And they didn't use the term black people. Yeah, of course I did. You didn't shower with them, did you? So that sets the tone of the mindset that these people had, and it was discouraging, and it was hard to understand as a young 18-year-old how people could feel this way. But Roger, once again, you are who you associate with, and these people that I was dealing with at the university had grown up in generations and generations of people who had that mindset. Mm-hmm. And they had achieved that same mindset, and it's taken all these years. And thank God that mindset, for the most part, not only has been discouraged, but has been shown to be so wrong, that we're all created equal, and you take the skin off any of us, no matter what continent or what nationality you are, we're all the same skin and bones and 99.9% exactly identical. But it was disturbing. I did feel a lot more comfortable when I come back to New York. That experience, I wasn't afraid. I was just kind of discouraged in that type of morality.
Yeah.
And the fact that they could believe so strong in it. The one thing I did achieve at Auburn was that I found out, especially at breakfast, but other meals also, they had warm grits. They had grits with everything. And they would take scrambled eggs and they'd mix the grits in. They would take vegetables, they'd mix the grits in. So I'm a northern boy used to oatmeal, so I would put the grits in a bowl, put milk and sugar in, and eat it like, the only way I liked it was if I ate it like oatmeal. And they would say, look at that crazy Yankee. Look what he's doing to his grits. And I would say within a month, I had the whole team table. Man, Yankee, this is pretty good. So I did teach them to eat grits properly.
Well, maybe they're still doing it down there. That's great. Okay, so you head back to New York. You're at Cortland. You get a job at the high school or at the school as a math teacher.
Yeah, well, I graduated from Cortland. Nick and I were already married. We had our second child. We had Susie and Carrie while we were at Cortland. We came back and I got employed by North High School where I had graduated and played football. So it's only 5 years later, now I'm sitting at the teachers meeting and they introduce the new teachers. We're happy to have back with us Ray Stanton, Raymond Stanton, you all remember him, he was this and that. And I was sitting right next to my old English teacher, who just couldn't believe that I was going to be, I said, don't worry about it, I'm going to be a math teacher.
Right.
And I taught and coached for a number of years and really, really enjoyed it.
And tell us about the brainstorm when you had the idea for your first company, Dynamite. How did that come to be?
Back in the 70s, I was junior class advisor, football coach, and doing my thing. And it was about 1975. My junior class always sold World's Finest Chocolate. The guy'd come to my door, throw bars in, and say, how many ordering? Well, the junior class was 300 kids, so I'd order 300 boxes, and he loved me. And 1975, he goes, Ray, what are you doing in the classroom? He says, with your personality, I'd like to make you director of Central New York for World's Finest. And I'll start you at $25,000. I'm making $7,700 teaching and coaching. So I'm thinking, gee, I could, he says, you can work out of Binghamton, but you have Central New York, Syracuse, Utica, and love to have you. I said, let me think about it. So I'm thinking, I'm going, I didn't spend all this 5 years in college, the last 9 years teaching, loving it, to throw it all away to sell candy bars. Not that that's not a bad profession, but I wanted to stay in education. So I thought, man, if he's offering me 25, he's got to be making 35. There's got to be a lot of money in fundraising, because this guy was an awful nice guy, but I didn't know how far the elevator went up, you know?
Right.
And I thought, jeepers, if he can do this, I've got to find something that I can make and sell myself. So that planted a seed. I got to come up with a fundraiser. Well, Nikki and I, we were given a coupon about that same time. A company called Global Dining came up with an idea of 20 certificates, all buy one, get one dinners, in an envelope, each one like about the size of a dollar bill. You buy the envelope for $49.95.
Back then.
And you get 20 dinners. And somebody had given my Uncle Bill a packet of these coupons, and they were in Syracuse, but they happened to have 3 or 4 restaurants in Broome County. So Bill said, would you like a 2-for-1 coupon for dinner? It's a free dinner. I go, what's that for? And he goes, one of my prisoners gave me this packet of 3 coupons for Binghamton restaurants, and we don't go to this one restaurant. And at the time, it was a restaurant the restaurant downtown Binghamton. You go down in
Bogart or something?
La Cavo, I think it was called at the time, the Cave. So I said, let's try this, Nikki. So we went, and I asked the waitress hesitantly, does this mean I have free dinner? She said, oh yeah, we just got in that program. You buy dinner and your wife's dinner's free as long as it don't cost more than yours. And bingo, the light went on in both Nikki and I's head. And I said, I think I can do a coupon book, Nick. She says, yeah, you're right, because this is fun. You go and you get something free. And at the time, I was into semi-pro football, so I was already putting a yearbook together, and I was out begging ads to support the team.
So you knew a lot of them.
Buy an ad, please. Mm-hmm. And most of them were restaurants and taverns, and so I had a lot of connections. So I went out and I put a book together. And the only people I could get to give me a free dinner were pasta people, because the cost of them giving away pasta was so reasonable.
Right.
So I had like 10 pasta dinners. Buy a spaghetti and meatball, get one at Mammalina's.
All Italian restaurants.
But yeah, all Italian. And I packaged that together. I sold it $10. We cut and stapled them, Nikki, me, and the kids, right in our kitchen, with a regular cutting board, and then stapled them. We would coordinate. There was only 8 or 10 pages, so we cut them, staple them, and I tried my junior class as my first experiment. And the kids sold a couple hundred of them. Doesn't sound like a lot, but on a $10 book, they made $1,000. My junior class made $1,000. I got $1,000 back, which was probably $300-400 profit. And I'm going, I wonder if I could do this in some other schools. So over the next few years, we increased the size of the book, the popularity of the book, and Nikki had a great idea. He said, why don't you put fast food in there? And I said, I don't think I can, because this restaurant is giving away a dinner. they don't want to be in with a restaurant that's giving away a burger. That's kind of not right. My dinner's worth $6, that burger's worth 89 cents or whatever. So I went out and I talked to some restaurants, and I said, I'm going to have a fast food section, but we're going to put it in the back. The restaurants are going to be up front. And I'm going to put some fast food, I'm going to put some miniature golf in the back. Is that all right with you? Yeah, as long as I got the placement. And Nicky was right. The fast food doubled our sales. Having the fast food in there, the McDonald's, the Burger Kings, the pizza.
All the big brands.
That really made the book take off as much or more so than dinners. Because if you think about it, how often do you go sit down and have a fine dine dinner as opposed to how often do you go fast food?
Right.
So they became very popular and it really helped in the growth of our company. And I did it for, I expanded Binghamton to all the school districts. I found somebody at Seton, somebody at UE, and usually people I knew, coaches or whatever. And we got to the point where we're selling 10, 15,000 books in Broome County.
Wow.
And so then I had an aunt up in Syracuse. I went up during the summer and I sold the restaurants and the fast foods, and she sold that book. And
So you had a blueprint now.
I had a blueprint. I had a cookie cutter, but I was teaching full time, and by that time I'm an administrator. I'm a principal, so I don't have as much time. I do have 2 weeks in the summertime, and I was enlisting some part-time retired friends. I just it was really nice from 76 to 91, 15 years. I played with it. I tweaked it, and I made enough money that our life, with 6 children by that time, 7 children by that time, our income was supplemented to, I had almost doubled my teaching. And we had nice, it made real nice Christmases and made real nice Easter vacations, and it took a little of financial pressure off.
Sure.
And that was phase 1, 15 years. And then my son Raymond played, of all places, got a scholarship to Alabama. And he come home and got married. And the apple don't fall far. And he said, Dad, I said, Raymond, what are you doing? You getting married? You got a job? You got a year of college? He said, I want to work with you. I want to take Dynamite, and that was our name, Dine-A-Mate. I want to take Dynamite all across the United States, and I want you to get out of education. I said, Ray, now I'm making $60 a year. I've got retirement ahead of me. I've got a great insurance policy. I said, Ray, I think you're right. It can go. But I can't cut loose yet. I'm 7 years to retirement. He said, Dan, you're bringing in $400,000 a year. $450 a year right now in 3 cities. I was doing Syracuse, Scranton, and Binghamton. He said, let me work it full time for a year. If I can double that by myself with you helping me, will you leave teaching? I said, Ray, if you can double that to $1 million, I'll leave teaching. The son of a gun. This kid turned out to have found his niche. He's, and you know him well, he's like a brother to you. Ramey has a personality that people, he's like the Pied Piper, whether it's with grandkids or whatever. Ray attracts people, and he attracts their confidence and their belief in him. And he just has that natural. And he went out and doubled the business. So I asked my wife, Nick, I go, honey, I want to work with my son, and I want to take this company across the country, and we got up to $1 million now, so we're not going to lose any income. I'm going to lose a bunch of my retirement, but I'd like to take the chance, okay with you? And as she always has done, go for it. whether it was semi-pro football. You know, all the years I played semi-pro football, Nicky was raising 7 children, 6 children, 7 children. And we had incomes back then in the 7,000s. We didn't have a lot of spare cash or anything.
Right.
Here I am going out playing semi-pro football, getting concussions, getting my shoulders knocked out and everything, and she always had a smile on her face and always said, go for it. How long you gonna play? You gonna play next year or whatever? I ended up playing 8 seasons and then finally got excited about the business. And then Ray and I left teaching, and the next thing you know, and this is where you came in.
Yeah.
This is where I got to know you. You liked the idea and went to work with us, and we had some great memories of taking my existing 3 over a 5-year period to almost 35 cities and a lot more income.
Yeah, and my Dynamite story is in 1993. I was out in Portland, Oregon, where I went to school, as far away from home as I could go.
And where your sister lived.
That's right. And my mother called me, and she said, do you remember Mr. Stanton? I said, of course. She says, well, do you remember he has that business called Dynamite, the coupon books, sold as a fundraiser? I said, yeah, sure. I remember selling those as a kid. She said, well, they're expanding all over the country. You should think about giving them a call. Maybe they'll go to Portland.
So that was your mother.
That was my mother. So I don't know if you remember, I called you, and you said, when was the last time you were in Binghamton? And I said, oh, it's been a couple of years. You said, I'm going to send you a ticket. Back then you actually had to send the ticket.
Yeah.
And I want you to come home and we'll talk about opening Portland. So I flew in. You gave me a free vacation home. I got to see my family and friends. And within 2 weeks, you sent a crew, an entire crew of about 12 guys out to Portland. And you set up in a hotel. And I learned the business. I learned the merchant business and how to set up these coupon books.
And I got to see Portland.
Yes.
And it was nice, and it was rainy, and I got to see Mount Hood, and that was nice, and it was rainy, and it was snowy, and it was beautiful. And got to meet your sister out there and her cats, and it was a great time.
Yeah, yeah. No, and from there it just snowballed. So I think it was a couple of years later, if you could, to your first company sale. How did that all happen?
Ray and I and our team, and you know, you're is more than anybody else. We're an initial part of the expansion team, and our team did a great job in taking our company from the $1 million that Ramey got me hook, line, and sinker, thank God, to 12 plus million in 35 cities, at which time, that was 96, at which time our competitor, who was bigger, not better, but bigger, had been in it longer, started 10 years before I had, decided to buy us out because we were coming to their towns and knocking them off the throne. And when that happens in competition, just like baseball, if Yankees play Cleveland every year and the Cleveland pitcher beats them every year, you can rest assured that the Yankees are going to do their best to buy that pitcher.
Right.
And they made us an offer, and it was a good offer, and we sold our company in 96. At which point, Graham and I, who had lived in the same $11,000 house on the east side of Binghamton, raised 7 children in it, a little 2-story wood frame house, which we called home and still love to this day, the memories that we had there. We decided to look for a bigger and better home. And we moved over to the other side of town, bought a beautiful 3-acre parcel, and it's been wonderful for our kids. And I'd always thought of when I moved from that side of town, 31 years at an $11,000 house, over to this new huge 8,000 square foot house that maybe I would do it in a covered wagon and like the guys at the TV program, They Found the Oil.
Right.
And but we moved normally the way most folks did, and it was hard. It was hard breaking away from that little $11,000 house that we spent 31 wonderful years in.
Yeah.
Never thinking it was small, never thinking it was anything but a wonderful home. 31 Christmases. Now we've had 18 at our new house, and of course more room for the 40 grandkids that we've been blessed with.
And one great-grandchild.
And a great-grandchild. So now we have, the 3 acres, the tennis court, the swimming pool and everything, and just very fortunate and have enjoyed it. It's going by so quickly.
Something about you that I've observed for all these years is that you've never changed. A lot of people sell their businesses, make all this money, and they change. You have stayed the same. You do what you want to do. You wear what you want to wear. And that's what I really respect about you.
Well, you told me I had to dress up for this. So.
First time I saw you in a jacket in a long time.
I'm not a great one, but if you look at the great ones that I look at, for example, the ones that are really successful don't change because they're comfortable inside. And if you're comfortable inside, I'm as comfortable at 62 Fairview Avenue at $11,000 as I am where I live now for $1 million or whatever. I was as comfortable driving beat-up cars as I am driving my Escalade. If you're comfortable from inside, you remain comfortable on the outside, and you don't need. I've never had a need or the desire to show or to prove to people something. I did have a great pride in football, and I always wanted to win. I always wanted to win. And you take the great ones, Johnny Unitas, Joe Namath, all these different people in sports, and a lot of the great ones in all the other fields, they're pretty common folk. The pitcher that just died in the airplane crash, I did a lot of reading on him. He won 2 Cy Young Awards. He's only 40 years old. He bought his first plane. Unfortunately, he crashed it and died, but everybody said, he was such a great guy. He's a Cy Young winner twice. Pitched a perfect game in a postseason game. And he was normal. He's just a nice, quiet guy, no braggadocious or anything. And I think you're going to find out that real successful people are comfortable inside and they don't need to change. And unfortunately, some people do because they're still, they start, whether it's money or whatever, or women or whatever, they're out to prove themselves, and that's unfortunate that happens. And with myself, I like to think I'm, with the good fortune I've had with my wife and my family and my friends, that I've always been comfortable.
Yeah. And that's Roy Halladay you were speaking of, who died this week. Yeah, it's interesting, and I think people from the outside looking in always wonder, what are the secrets? What are the secrets to success? Sometimes it's just downright being yourself, right? Just doing the things you're supposed to do, taking care of business,
as I watch. And I had a hard time watching myself because you don't watch yourself. Things happen and you relate to them from your experiences and from your upbringing. We know that our parental upbringing is the foundation of all that's good inside us. And there were hardships, and that wasn't always fun, and there was good times, there were angry times. There were punishments dealt out during the teenage years and everything. But basically, you start with the success you had with your parents and the love, and that builds that foundation. But I guess I didn't fall far from the tree. My dad was very energetic in his own small way. He was a one-man contractor on one side of the town, but he made a living, and he could fix engines, he could pour concrete, he could lay cinder block, or he could build you a new bathroom. And watching him, I was inspired that he was a man of all trades, jack of all trades, and he was a hard worker. Back then, 60-hour weeks were
Common.
an expectation.
Yeah.
2 jobs were an expectation. But he gave me a good example. My teachers, my coaches gave me a good example. I think success is as I watch my kids, whether it's my daughter Annie or my younger son Luke, who's now running. We've restarted the book division. Save Around, we're in 185 cities. He's 36 years old. He got 2 years of college, and he came to work for the company. And now he's the CEO of the company, and he's running a company that's bigger than the one Ray and I sold. And he's the younger son, and he watched Ray, and he watched Dad. But as I watch him and Ramey, and Annie, my children that I'm so proud of, I would say success as I watch them is the key factor is the ability to relate with other people and to get their trust. And that is that's what Ray's done, what Luke has done, what Annie's been able to do is when they talk with people, and hopefully that's what I had. That when I came around and begged a semi-pro full-page ad for $500 in 1975 or 1970, or a quarter page for $75, they saw the honesty and the fact that I was excited. I wasn't excited about the cost of the ad because I was going to put that towards a team, and I was just excited about a team, and not just any team, a team that would go on and be the winningest probably in semi-pro history. Because if you got to be in it to win it, but if you're in it, win it.
Right.
And if it's selling books across the country, we go into a city, we see what our competitors are doing, and I want to sell the most books in that city. So it goes back to that wanting to win. You got to have a desire to win. You got to have a desire. You got to have a personality and an ability to relate with people and gain their trust. I think they're the two biggest: a desire to win and an ability, an innate ability because of your personality and your upbringing to earn trust.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to when I first started, and one of the things you used to always tell us is get it done. But you used to always say, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. What did you mean by that?
That some people come so close. And again, I go back to sports because it was such a big part of my life, both coaching and playing. Whatever it takes means that a lot of people miss. They lose a ball game, they lose yardage, they throw an incompletion because they didn't give it quite enough. If they'd given it just a little more. For instance, if I'm selling a restaurant and a guy says, I don't give my food away, I don't want to be on it. It'd be very easy for me to say, okay, sir, I'll try you next year. He just said no. I see it as a challenge that are there no days a week that is your restaurant busy every day of the week? He goes, we're busier than hell Friday and Saturday. I go, well, how about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Well, I could use help then, but I didn't understand what you meant. I wouldn't give my food away on Friday if you pay me. I go, so we used to, and we still do to a certain extent, be able to work the coupon so it fits the business. And I gave it that extra, and I got it. I got the contract because I let them off on Fridays. I'm rolling out for a pass. I see people coming at me. And I'm about ready to get hit pretty hard. I can go down and make that hit a little less, or I can continue looking and maybe find somebody and throw it at the last minute, that little extra. And if you watch football on Sundays, that happens all the time. The good quarterbacks, they call it hanging in there. The good quarterbacks will hang in there to the last minute, and if it means getting run over by a truck to get that completion, they'll get the completion. They'll sell their body, unfortunately. And that's that extra. A male-female relationship. A lot of divorces, a lot of separations, a lot of relationships that don't work out because one, the other, or both wouldn't give it that little extra, wouldn't try a little harder, be a little better person to the lady, or if the lady, give the guy a little room to breathe, that little extra. And so the little extra can make you successful in a lot of different ways, a lot of different areas, and it just means trying a little bit harder.
Yeah. And that's a great life lesson, like you said, no matter what it is.
Especially the classroom, being a teacher for 20-something years. I noticed right off the bat that my A and B students, they gave it that extra. And my CD and failures, they weren't willing to do that. They wanted to get it over with.
Just give up.
For whatever reasons, whether the expectations at home weren't there, whether the teacher in the classroom hadn't enlightened them as to how important it was or whatever. But you can tell in the classroom who's giving it that little extra and who isn't. You can watch a group of cheerleaders, and if there's 12 cheerleaders, you can say, those three really give it the extra. They're not out there just to go through the routine. They're really enjoying it, and they're really boosting the crowd. So there's a lot of different meanings, but giving it that extra effort.
Mm-hmm. Where did that come from?
Well, it may have come from the dinner table when I was growing up, because if you didn't give it a little extra, you didn't get extra. But no, I think growing up, I found out that if I wanted any more money in my pocket, instead of mowing 2 lawns, I had to mow 5 lawns. If I wanted good grades, I had to give it extra. If I wanted to be successful in football, I had to give it a lot extra. I was probably one of the laziest athletes God's ever chosen to give a right arm to. I hated sprinting. I wasn't a runner. I wasn't a weightlifter. But I found out that as I rose into the higher ranks, and if you were going to be exceptional, you had to do exceptional things. The right arm will take you so far, just so far. You had to put more with it. I had to lift weights. I had to get bigger and stronger. I had to learn how to run and how to do agilities quicker. Never liked it. To this day, I walk 5-10 miles a week because I need to. Still don't like it, but
right.
It's a necessity to physically get better if you're going to be in sports.
Yeah. So that's a nice segue into your football career. You've had a remarkable career in semi-pro football. A lot of people may not know about semi-pro football, so if you could just give us a little backstory on that and how you got involved and all the success you had.
I left Auburn I was all-state at age, I was all-stack at 17 in Binghamton, and then in 18 I was all-state Virginia. Then at 19, I left Auburn and quit playing football. 1968, I'm teaching and I'm coaching football, and one of my old friends, Butch Roswell, I think it was, said, "Did you know that they got a football league, flag league, down in Endicott? It's an adult league. You wear spikes, shorts, and you wear a flag on each hip, and you play football, and they've got to tear the flag away to tackle you. And it's all frustrated jocks from high school and college that are old now that they're not playing contact football anymore. Most of the teams were sponsored by bars. I got a bar in Binghamton, Eastside Tavern, to sponsor us. Sponsoring means they give you 12 T-shirts with Eastside Tavern on them. Then you go pay $150 entrance fee, and you play once every Thursday night under lights. And Endicott, you play another bar, and there were like 10 bars. At the end of the season, they had a playoff. Well, I like Joe Namath. I met him briefly when I was at Auburn because he played at Alabama at the same time. So I get the number 12. I get the shoes. Back then, everybody wore black shoes, except Joe Namath. Joe Namath in the AFL wore white shoes and the number 12. So here I am. I'm 26 years old. No, I'm 20. Let's see, 70, 26. I'm 24 years old. I haven't played football in 5 years since Auburn. I take number 12. I buy some shoe polish, buy a new pair of cleats, and I paint them all white. And we play in the Bear League. Well, like anything else, I made sure I had a good team. And this Bear League turned out to be kind of a really rough. They would grab your flag, but in doing so, you usually end up on the ground. And no helmets or nothing. These guys would come at you and tack you and take your flag. Not supposed to tag you. Sorry about that, you know. So it was really rough and tumble. And we were very good. And we had some people that could catch the ball. I could throw the ball. And we went 2 years undefeated. And it was kind of nice because all the bars that we played against were from Endicott and Johnson City, and we're the only Binghamton bar, and they just hated the fact that we won it and Stanton with the white shoes and the number 12 keeps winning. So, long story short, I got invited to play up in Oneonta semi-pro when I was 26. He said, I want you to be the head coach, and I want you to be the quarterback, and I'll give you $25 a week, gas money or whatever. Empire Football League. And I didn't know anything about semi-pro football except there was a bunch of town people, ex-players from college, who represented like Albany, Hudson Falls, Syracuse, Utica. There were 10 or 12 teams. So I go, and at the league meeting, this is where fate comes in. At the league meeting, Ed stands up and says, I'd like everybody in the meeting here. It was a scheduling meeting in January. Meet my new head coach and my quarterback, Ray Stanton from Binghamton. And, hi guys, how you doing? I said, that's pretty nice. Well, found out one of the teams had dropped out. They needed a team. So the guy running the league says, Stanton, where are you from? I said, I'm from Binghamton. Is that bigger or smaller than Oneonta? I go, it's quite a bit bigger. He says, if Oneonta's got a team, why can't Binghamton have a team? I said, I don't know. He said, you want a team? I go, hell yeah. Well, Ed from Oneonta just lost his head coach quarterback because he got a team. And it started in 1970. I came back to Binghamton. The first thing I had to do was get a place to play. They gave me 2 weeks. I went to the Board of Ed for UE in Binghamton, and each one said you can play 5 home games here. So I got 2 nice fields. Decided to name the team because of Joe Namath, TC Jets.
For Triple Cities.
Green and white, number 12, still white shoes. And all those guys that have been beating me up in the touch league, I had a team meeting. Who wants to play football and put the helmet on? I got my team out of that league.
So the guys got the cream of the crop.
The guys that I'd been fighting with for 2 years ended up being being on my team and being outstanding, including Joe Greco, who had played for one of the bars in IndyCar. Him and I had gotten the fisticuffs.
Great guy.
Great guy, and I ended up being his best man at his wedding. An Irishman and an Italian's wedding. Yeah, real close. And they were great years. So the first year of the Jets, we over-prepared, and we went 12-0, scored 634 points, and gave up 18. And it was quite a year. We, half the team made the All-Star, and we just had a wonderful time. The local papers, because, and again, you talk about good fortune. In 1970, the Triplets had left town. They put the new highway through, and they hadn't built another stadium.
For baseball.
For baseball. So there was no baseball. There was no hockey till 73. The town had always been a good team town. And I come at a time when it was dry. And there was no football. SUNY was high on soccer, and there was high school ball, and that's about it. So I hit it at the right time. Luck, outright luck. It was ready. And I didn't have any money. I go to Fred Zappi in Endicott, and after I checked some other people, I'm trying to get prices on helmets and shoulder pads to see how much I'm going to have to borrow. Back then, even it cost probably $15,000 to outfit a team of 60. About $250 a piece between the helmet, shoulder pads, practice gear, uniforms, everything. Now it's double that. So I checked around. I finally hop in the car and I go down to IndyCar. I meet a guy called Fred Zappi. He's got a cigar in his mouth. He's probably in his late 60s, mid 60s, maybe even 70. And little be known to me, he does all the high school uniforms. I mean, he's got the best place in town. Everybody knows Fred Zappi. So I come in with a clipboard. Ray Stan, TC Jess, I know who you are. I've seen you on TV. And I heard you're a pretty smart kid, so I've been expecting you. What can I do for you? I said, I need a price. Mm-hmm. And he goes, if I give you this price, how many uniforms? I said, 60. So if I give you this price, and you like my price, you're going to write me a check. I go, yeah, I'm working on that. Yeah, we're selling advertising. He goes, look, I know you're a teacher. I know this is a nice dream for you, and I think it's going to work. I think you're onto something. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's not even talk about price. You tell me what you need. I'll give you what you need this first year. If you have a good year, you pay me. If it falls through, then we both made a mistake. How's that, eh? I said, that's a heck of a deal. So that's the type of response I got and the type of people that I've been able to meet my whole life. When I did my early years, when I was doing all my printing, I was doing $50,000, $100,000 worth of printing in the early years. I had a printer that said, hey, I know you start selling your books in September, and you don't get the money in right away and like that, so how about if I bill you in 6 months?
That's incredible.
He'd wait till January or February to get his payment. Meanwhile, he had put up the money for the paper and everything. So yeah. I've been very fortunate this way where people would trust me and they'd believe in my ideas. And I come back, the first check I wrote at the end of the season, I come back to Zap and I go, get the bill out. He opened the drawer and he had it, and it was a very fair bill. It wasn't marked up because I'd been successful. And I paid it and we shook hands, and I did business with him for the rest of the time I was in football. So we continued. The second year in 1971, our reputation had gotten out because we were scoring so many points. I was throwing 45 touchdown passes a year. We got invited down to Jet Camp, New York Jets. So I was excited. I had made a deal with the local Ford dealer, Lloyd Scoville. Lloyd had played at Colgate, and he was in his 60s, and I said, I need a car to haul the equipment around. The bags, the blocking bags, everything. I need a big wagon. So he goes, here's what I'm going to do. I want my name on, courtesy Scoville Ford. I'm going to give you a car for the season, brand new. Brand new wagon. Wow. I was driving $150 cars my whole life. So now I've got a wagon. So I named the wagon. I got a green one. I said, I need a green one. And I named it Jetmobile. On the side, it said they had a football, and in the center of the football, it said Jetmobile, courtesy Scoville Ford. I'm driving around town all of a sudden. I own a football team. I'm the head coach, quarterback, and I'm driving a brand new car. And in the second year, we get invited down to Jet Camp. The Jets won the Super Bowl in '69. Mm-hmm. They had Boozer and Snell, the running backs. They had Don Maynard, the number one receiver in the NFL, out wide. Of course, they had Joe Namath, and they had Weeb Eubank. Weeb had coached Johnny Unitas to a world championship in Baltimore, and he had just coached the Jets to Namath to a world championship in New York. So I go down and I meet them, and they put me in a practice, and I had a real good practice. Put me in a scrimmage. I'm handing off to Boozer and Snell, and I just 2 years ago drinking beer watching them beat the NFC. First time ever. Namath predicted the win, and they won. I'm going.
Now you're out there with them.
I'm breaking the auto with Don Maynard and Boozer Snell, and I'm going and playing catch with Joe, warming up with Joe.
So was this an invite?
Yeah, and Joe Greco was down there with me. And they had three quarterbacks at the time, and Weeb said, Ray, I don't have to tell you this, but after the scrimmage, I got a call to see Weeb Eubank. Ray Stanton, go to Coach Eubank's office. I'm going, they're going to sign me, because I was like 9 for 12 in practice. And so anyway, he says, hey, I've had some great quarterbacks. I wish I'd had you out of college at 22. You would have been an NFL starter. You got a great arm, and can't use you. You're 20, at that time, 28 years old. You're a little bit too old, but nice arm.
What a great experience.
Kept Greco till the last cut. Joe Greco actually played 5 or 6 exhibition games. So 2 years later, in '73, I get a call from the Giants. I get another nice tryout with the Giants, and same old thing. You're a little bit old, but we had to look at you. You got some great stats, got a good arm, and go back and continue playing. You never know when somebody will get hurt. Well, about 3 weeks later, early September, I get a call from Trimble, who was the Giants personnel director. I get a call in my classroom. The Giants are on the phone, come down to the main office. I said, I'll be right there. I hung up because I thought it was one of my friends, Blanchard or Dine-A-Mate, pulling my leg, because they knew I'd been down to camp. So I let it go, and I'm teaching at the board. The phone rings again. The secretary says, Mr. Trimble's on the phone. He's been waiting over 5 minutes. I said, I'll be right down. He says, Ray, you may have read in the paper, which I hadn't. We lost our quarterback, our first-string quarterback, got knocked out. This is 1973. I forget who it was, but anyway, he goes, "Can you come down and finish the season? We're going to move so-and-so up, and you'll be the backup quarterback. Can you do that without losing your job?" So I said, "I'll call you back in a half hour." I went over to the superintendent, said, "I got a chance to do this. Can I take unpaid leave?" He goes, "Yeah, sure, go for it." So I called him back, and he said, "Be down here Monday morning unless you read in the Sunday paper that we made some last-minute trade," which I don't think is going to happen. So just be ready to come down here Monday. So I can't believe it. I'm packing up. I'm getting all set. I'm excited. Nikki's excited. I'm kind of worried. I'm going to be in New York. She's going to be back here, but I'm going to get probably a better paycheck. Pick up Sunday papers, Giants trade for Craig Morton for their starting quarterback. So my heart So that's as close as I came. But I came close, and I had a wonderful time playing semi. And the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, in 1996, we saw a company. Ramey's back from Alabama. He didn't play flag football or nothing, but he goes, Dad, you know what? You know how you had the TC Jets? Can we do that again? Because I want to play football. I go, Ray, do me a favor. You're 27 years old. You don't need to do this. Dad, come on. You be the coach. I'll be the quarterback. Okay. We brought the BC Jets, which you were aware of. You worked. You were a general manager or whatever you were with us. You helped do the whole thing. Got another group of younger guys out. Ramey, quarterback, won the league the very first year, 13-1. He was the best quarterback in the league. Next year we won 10-3, so we're 13-1 or 23-4 over 2 years. And he was smart. He goes, I've had enough. He didn't have to go.
Retired.
He didn't have to go the 8 or 9 years. I beat up my body. He got the 2 years in and enjoyed it. But I enjoyed just coaching and coaching him. And so that was the end of football. Now we watch NFL Sunday.
So let me ask you, there were a few things that happened along the way where they gave you a car. They trusted you and gave you the equipment. Again, there's a nice life lesson in there. If you're good to people, if you're genuine, if you earn their trust, as you said, do you believe that good things happen?
I think today, and we've seen it with some of these companies, not just the gazillion billionaire companies, but even today, maybe more so because of what's happened over the last 20 years with new companies. If you can sell yourself and you've got a good idea, I know that Ray and I and my family, we've backed some ideas. There's a way that you can do what I did or more. My sons are taking what I did to another level. And now Ray, as you know, is in the technology business, and we're building loyalty technology, software platforms, and if you've got a good idea and you work it and you prove to not only yourself but to a small circle of friends that it's not an idea. Everybody has ideas, but you got to take that idea to the embryo stage and show that it will work. And if you can do that, which most people can if they believe in it and they work hard enough at it, you can today you can find people to back you. You can today in America. The beauty of our country is that everybody can rise. Everybody can be where they want to be, not just fame and fortune, but success, whether it's sports, business, or whatever. Everybody can get there if they have a little bit of luck and they have a lot of hard work. But hard work, you're more often more apt to be lucky if you're hard working.
Right.
Lazy people don't get lucky.
Right.
Hard workers
they go hand in hand.
Get lucky.
Yeah.
And there are hard workers that don't get lucky. You know, I've seen them, and they've worked their tail off, and they never got anywhere. I've been a hard worker all my life, and I've been very lucky all my life.
So what do you say to people who are just not as confident, intimidated? They may have a great idea, but they just don't have it in them. You know, what can they do to?
I would say be a good employee with somebody, because not everybody is cut to be a leader, and I don't know what it takes other than some of the things we've discussed. But personalities are different. The good Lord made everybody different. We're 99.9% identical, but there's that 1/100th of 1% in every person's chest or whatever persona that's different than anybody else in the world. And you've got to take that difference and be able to mold it into something. You know, you can be like everybody else, but if you want to be different, you got to take that 1/100th of 1% and say, God gave me this to make me different, and I'm going to use this to be different. And again, it can be artistry, it can be photography, it can be dance, it can be education, it can be anything.
Right.
Everybody has that. You got to find it. And sometimes it takes, how many of us come through high school, somebody says, what do you want to be when you grow up? You go, how the hell do I know? You know, who knows? Some people don't know until they're 40. You just got to keep dreaming and keep working at it, and meanwhile, do enough to get by, especially if you've found a mate and you're having a family.
Right.
Sometimes you got to do a lot of things that you didn't expect to do or don't not necessarily want to do, just to make ends meet and still have that dream of that thing that I really want to do this. Some people don't do it till, my sister Donna had children early. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was nothing to be married at 17. You started having children at 17, 18 years old. I mean, if you weren't married by 25, must be something wrong with you.
Right.
I mean, that's the 50s.
That was the mentality.
Yeah, and so my sister had 4 children, and she was a stay-at-home mom. Her husband was just getting started with IBM. She always wanted to be a teacher. She went back to college at age 34, I think graduated about 38, and became an elementary teacher for 30 years.
It's great.
And it took her longer to get there, but she got there.
But we all have our own unique ability, right? And it's just trying to find that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can work with, a good way to find that is to work with your friends and have enough courage to say, you know, Raj, you know me pretty good. We've been hanging out together like that. What do you think I would do well? What do you think I could do? I got some ideas, but...
What am I good at?
Yeah, what do you see me doing? And you'd be surprised at some of the answers you get.
Mm-hmm. Great advice.
You are who you hang with, and choose good friends, and make the family work. You can't choose your family. You're born into your family, but that doesn't mean family can't work. You see all these families that the brothers and sisters are fighting, haven't talked to each other for so long like that. We're on this planet Earth for a very short period of time. The dinosaurs were here for 350 years. 350 years. We've been here, what, 12,000 years? And it goes quick. As I'm approaching 74, I go, I'm on a toboggan. You know, slow down.
Right. You mentioned technology. You guys are into technology now as an organization. And what do you think about technology, everything you've seen over your lifetime? Is it incredible to you to see how far it's come?
My example would be, when I started the business, we had a IBM Select typewriter that had a ball head on it. They had all the caricatures and the letters. When you type, it instead of going across, that ball hit everything. We would type in, buy dinner, get dinner free. We'd take the menu, we'd cut out the logo. We'd cut dates. We'd paste, with paste, all this to make a coupon. Think of all the work, all the writing that's on a coupon. We'd paste them. And then I would paste 120 pages for Binghamton, my Binghamton book and Syracuse book, and it was a lot of work. And then we'd rubber band that, and we'd take it to the printer.
All manual labor.
He would unrubber band it, and he'd take pictures of every page, then they'd make plates, and then they would print it and put it together and everything. Today, our computer graphics department, 6-8 people, will typeset our 180 books in a couple months, all at the computer, bringing up what was there last year, making the changes, making the new ones. Logos already in there. They can change, increase, decrease. I used to have to take my logos to a photography shop if I wanted them smaller or bigger. So it's fantastic. I told Ray after we sold the first company, we need to get with somebody who knows technology. He says, Dad, what are we going to do next? I said, well, you know what's coming is electronic coupons. I have a flip phone. I've never been on a computer myself, but I know the value of them. So we found a company, we found a couple guys up in Toronto that could write language, and they know the inner workings of software. And we told them what we wanted. We wanted to be able to offer our discounts on iPhones. And in doing so, we built a platform that allows us to do that, allows us to do a lot of other things. We're one of the biggest operators in the very beginning, rolling the price back at the gas tank. Our software is embedded in all the 10,000 BP stations. Our software. After all, this is the home of IBM. This is the home of where all the computers started as time clocks. So I think it's great. We're still in it. I'm not in it personally. If I want to look up a car online, I have to get one of my grandkids to say, go to AutoBuy and let me see what Cadillacs are for sale. So I've been resistant to jump in there, but I have finance and I've worked with and ideas and I've talked with programmers and I mean, I found out that Bill Gates is not a software guy, he's not a computer guy, he's an idea guy and a salesman, that his partner in this whole thing was a, quote, geek or whomever did all that in building the PC.
Paul Allen.
So it takes both.
Yeah.
I like being the idea guy, and I'm not. That's another thing. When it comes down to intricate labor, I'm still lazy. I used to tell my kids that in math class, we're going to grade each other's papers because I trust you. And we would grade, and it was good because if whoever found the most problems wrong with their neighbor's paper would get 5 points on their paper. So they were after each other.
Extra credit.
Yeah, so I always found a way to get out of that real serious, tedious work. But I've grown to love the computer people and what they're able to do and what it's been able to do for us.
Yeah.
I've been told that the next big thing in the grocery business is going to be sit in front of your TV and to take a real life experience down every aisle, whether it's Wegmans or whatever store you're going to enjoy that experience with a cart, going right down the aisle, and with a clicker, and fill your cart up, just as if you were in the store. It's not, I want to loaf for bread. You're in the bread aisle. Pick the bread you want.
Right.
That's amazing. You're going to be able to shop, fill your cart, hit OK, and within 2 hours, they're going to be delivering at your house.
It's incredible.
So that's what we're getting to. And I think retail now is 30% online. So we're in a computer world. You better get involved with it or get left out, I guess.
So you not only sold your first company in '96, but you sold your second company, which was a software company in 2010.
Yep, our Toronto team and Ray and yourself and we come up with a solution, a loyalty solution for the Stop and Rob stores, the gas stations, and food markets to be able to give loyalty cards to their customers so that they could get discounts on gas and discounts in the store. And we did a great job with that, and we were bought once again by a company, Fidelity Information Services, down in Florida. And now, having sold the book company and the technology company over a period of within 8 to 10 years of each other, we are now getting back in both industries, trying to do a better job because there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
There's room for a lot of players and everything. It's never too crowded. And so a good piece of advice is don't think you can ever do it because somebody else is doing it. The fact that somebody else is doing it is a great advantage for them, but it doesn't have to be a disadvantage or a disallowance for you. If somebody's doing what you always want to do, you don't have to say, oh, darn, I wanted to do that.
Well, it validates that it works, right?
Validates that it works, and maybe you can do it better.
That's right.
Or maybe you can get a piece of the pie, and maybe that piece of the pie is millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Maybe the pie is $1 billion pie. So don't ever give up. So
what's next for Ray Stanton, for you?
Disney World next week with some of my grandkids. I'm pushing 74. The body, like all 74-year-old bodies, is not what it was when I was playing football. It doesn't feel as good. It doesn't work as good. And so I'm trying to stay up with the health.
Yeah.
Nikki and I are really, really enjoying our extended family. Never thought, my grandma had 21 grandkids on one side, and the other one had maybe 13. I never thought of grandparents as what it would be like to be a grandparent. I always thought what it would be like to be a dad or a parent. Being a grandparent is so much fun because the pressure's off, so to speak. You're not in the midst of building a career and trying to put food on the table, and you got more time to spend with it, more enjoyable time to spend with your grandkids. And when they need something and they're fussing, it's time for them to go back to their parents.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful time, and the only hard part about it is that it's sliding so fast. I'm seeing my grandkids that were my golfing buddies and my Tasty Freeze buddies now, seniors in college and gone and up and running. Thank goodness I have a restock. I restock so that I now have a different group of 4 to 6 grandchildren that I can take through the next 4 to 10 years, and look forward to doing it. And just
So look, 10 grandchildren are a lot, 20 are a lot. How do you explain 40 what is it like to have all 40 around at one time?
Well, first of all, we had 7 children, and we were squashed in 62 Fairview Avenue with 2 bedrooms for the first 31 years. Our family's very close. They're close proximity. They were close in loving and playing with each other, because that was an expectation that Nikki and I just expected. When parents expect something, you'd be surprised how well the children react to that. So we had a close family. My kids grew up wanting a family like they came from. So they all had 5 to 8 kids. And I think they had 5 to 8 kids because they could close their eyes and go back to the Ray and Nikki family that loved each other so much, had so many Easters and Christmases and Thanksgivings and summers and things together. Back then, I did have a new station wagon for the team, but we never left, except for once a year, a mile radius of our house. We went to school mile radius. We went to the grocery store mile radius, to Tasty Freeze, Burger King, McDonald's, the park. We were very, not like today when everybody's on the run everywhere. We did all of our shopping, all of our living, mostly within a half mile of the house 99% of the year. And once a year went to Myrtle Beach, and that was wonderful. But today it's hard to have that closeness. They do have it, but all the kids got cars. All the kids are going here, going there. It's hard. It's hard. I would say it's a lot harder today being a parent and keeping things together and than when we were raising our family in the 70s, just out of necessity and financial necessity and everything else. We were very close, and as a circle of friends. And the other families were in the same boat. It wasn't just the Stantons.
Sure.
It was the Hellises, it was just, everybody had a tight-knit family and had a tight-knit circle of friends and lived within a mile. Did all their living within. If I told you, for this whole next year, don't go more than a mile away from your house.
Be hard to do.
You'd be handcuffed.
Yeah.
And ankle cuffed. You'd say that's impossible. We did it for 31 years.
Yeah.
Except for Easter vacation. That's why it's so very important to us. But we didn't even think about it because it was there for us.
Sure.
Education, church, grocery, everything was right there. And it was good, very good.
How important is your faith?
My faith is very important to me. Ironically, it started out with my mother, an Irish Catholic, marrying Stanton, who was come from a family of very, very strong Methodist Protestants. And ironically, when they got married back in the late 30s, early 40s, interfaith marriages were just as difficult as interracial marriages. My grandfather Ellis disowned my mother because she married a Protestant. You marry that man, that SOB Protestant, I'll never talk to you again.
Wow.
That's how, back then, Protestant Catholics were. So anyway, my father really wasn't into religion. So even though his parents were very strong Methodists, he was don't really care guy. So I could slide with my mother's side. The aunts would come and pick me up at the corner. They couldn't pick me up at the house on Sunday because Dad would see them and tell them to get the hell out. Meet me at the corner and take me to St. Paul's. Meet me at the corner and take me to St. Paul's. So I slowly became a hidden Catholic. And when I was 13 years old, you get baptized at birth, you make your first communion at age 9 or whatever it is, then you make your confirmation at 13 or what. They found out in the Catholic Church, I've been going to religious instruction and everything at St. Paul's, that I hadn't had any of the sacraments. So one Sunday he says, you go up to the altar after Mass, we're doing baptism, and I'm going to do all 3 with you. So I'm up there with a bunch of babies, getting my head soaked. And then he does first communion, then he does confirmation, makes me repeat something. I got all 3
in one day,
in a half an hour. So I felt good about that. And I've been a Christian all my life, and it's religion to me is between the person and the maker. And I don't mean to be bold or anti-religion. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. But I come up with a saying that somebody says, what do you think about religion? And I said that, well, you know what? Everyone knows that no one knows. And if somebody tells you different, I want to meet them because I truly believe that everyone knows in their heart that no one knows. Religion is a belief. And if you've observed miracles or if you've had Christ enter your life, you feel very strong about it. But for people to think their religion is better than another religion or there's a hierarchy of religions is almost nonsense. Common sense would tell you that, our planet's over 4 billion years old, and like I said, the dinosaurs ruled for 350 million years, and we've been here as we know each other from the caveman Neanderthals, 14,000 years at the most, Mesopotamia, 8,000 years ago, whatever, where it becomes civilized. It's... man has to sit down and relax and be interpersonal with the Creator. Because he's the Creator, and I say he, and I go, oh, I already screwed up because it could be a non-human, which it more than likely is. The power is the only one that knows. And you have to have your own personal relationship with the Creator. And nobody knows who the Creator is. We all have our beliefs. And I think there's so much more good in the world than bad that I think we're in good shape when it comes to the Creator. You just got to do the best you can here. You see all these things that are happening now and the lives that are being taken, and there's no whys. You have to have a relationship with whoever you believe is the Creator, and try to lead a moral, good life and spread the love.
Yeah, well said.
The best you can do is spread the love.
Yeah, well said. Well, look, this has been phenomenal. I heard a lot of new stories today, which is great. But before we let you go, one last question, and that is, what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy is absolutely the bloodline, the children. Our legacy, Nikki and I, to think that two teenagers met by accident. It was at a party. She had no intention of going out with me because at the time she had another friend, and I knew from day one, this is the girl, and I wasn't going to let her escape. And I went after her with more zeal than I've put into these other projects, and that relationship was the beginning. Nikki and Ray getting together was the embryo of everything that we've had together, and it spread to the 7 children that we were blessed with, and now they've had the 40. And my legacy is having a loving family, having had success which gave other people success, and having, more than anything else, having a lot of good times and fun shared by everybody. It's no fun unless you share it, or it is shared, as you well know, all the family gatherings that you and I are together at. So the legacy is family and love.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks so much. This has been great. We have to do it again because there's still a lot we didn't talk about today, but we'll have you back at some point here real soon.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
That was great.
Appreciate it.